YouTube. I just wanted to take a minute and maybe introduce my channel. Let you guys know a little bit about me and my family and what's going on here. What's going to happen in this channel. What kind of content we're going to go through. We are in the process of building a house out here. It's in a rural area of southern Missouri. Okay. We have a well over here, and it's out here. There's no municipal water or sewer or anything like that. I don't know what it is that drives us out here. We're tired of living in town by other people's rules. You know, we live in a society where we're supposed to have a say, you know, through our elected officials of how our lives are to be governed. And you can say all day long, well, get involved in politics, you know, go vote. Every vote counts. You know, change the system that way. Number one, there's not enough people to get together to do that to make any kind of a difference. Number two, even if there was, it would take 150 years to make any kind of a difference. It's so plugged up and corrupt and just upside down. I don't know exactly what it is. There's something that just burns inside me. Something that aches in my heart. That just screams at me that this is not the way people should live. This is not the way I want to live, you know. I don't want to buy a vehicle and then pay sales tax on it and then pay the state every single year for the privilege of driving on roads that our tax monies pay to build. You know, it just seems stupid to me. I mean, I always look back to the old days, really old days at this point. When I was a child, I used to think back to 1880 or so, or something, you know, 1900 even, to the cowboy days. And when I was a child, it didn't seem that long ago. Now I'm 30, and it just seems like it's been it could be 1,000 years, you know. It just seems so long ago. We've come so far and sunk so low. I'm not saying their ways of everything was the best, you know. I don't want to go around dying of cholera and yellow fever and children dying of chicken pox, you know. That, you know, it's a trade-off, I guess. Could I do without electricity? Yeah, I could. When I was a teenager, I got into some trouble. We lived in the city. Got into some trouble, and my parents couldn't handle me anymore, so they sent me to live with my aunt and uncle. They live on a small 160-acre farm in southern Missouri, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. I believe their electric bill is like $27 a month. Basically, all they run is light bulbs and a TV once in a while. My aunt cooks still to this day on a wood cook stove in the wintertime. And when it gets into the summertime, so they don't have to build a fire inside, they've got a propane cook stove set up in there, and they've just got a line running to the outside, and they've got about a 5-foot tall, like oxygen or acetylene tank, a little cylinder, and they go and fill it with propane, and that'll last them pretty much all summer long to cook with. But I mean, when I lived there, it was such a treat. It changed my entire life. They obviously heated their house with wood also. My uncle went to a junkyard and got an old sawmill. It was just an old steel frame with a 3.5 or 4 foot circular. It just looked like a circular saw blade basically, but it was like 4 foot across, and it had removable teeth and things. And he and I worked on that thing for probably a month and a half, and we got it all fixed up and ready to go. And he has a 1929 B Farmall. It's not painted up or fancy or anything like that. You know, it looks like it sits out in the rain and weather every day. It doesn't even get parked in a barn or anything. I mean, the whole thing is basically rusty, but that thing just runs and runs. And it's got a PTO on it that has a belt wheel, an old belt wheel for like a 6-inch wide belt. And we'd back that thing up to that sawmill and run an old belt to power the sawmill. You know, that blade turned maybe, I don't know, I don't really remember, maybe 450 to 600 RPM, and we sawed all our own lumber and, you know, built our barn buildings and wood shop and all kinds of stuff like that. And, you know, he had, like I said, 160 acres, and I believe he said he bought it in 1969 for $2,500, the whole place. And he ran on that 160 acres. He ran about 20 head of cattle, beef cattle. He had probably a herd of maybe 25 goats, and he had probably 20 chickens. He had 2 pigs, and at one time he had a couple of horses. He didn't have horses when I lived there, but he used to have horses and plowed his garden with the horses and all kinds of stuff. And, you know, that's how I lived. You know, we basically just, you know, lived like it was 1905. You know, there would be almost no difference. They didn't have running water in their house. I remember I'd take milk crates, those red Highland milk crates, and those are big enough to fit 4 1-gallon milk jugs in them pretty tight. And I would take those down to the spring, and I'd fill up milk jugs and carry them up the hill back to the house. And that's what we used to drink and cook and wash up and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's how it was. There's you know, and I lived like that for 2.5 years, and it was the best time of my life. You know, I look at all the problems I'm going through now with neighbors and being crowded in town and traffic and just crap that people shouldn't even have to worry about. You know, I don't know about the whole point, but certainly the majority of a human being's life is supposed to just be food, shelter, water, companionship, basically just safety. You know, you find a spot, you carve out a little existence, and you just live as long as you can. You find little moments in life that make it worth it. You know, you don't have to have big bass boats and $400,000 houses and brand new car every 2 years. You don't need that crap. I mean, if that's what makes you happy, then, I mean, I feel sorry for you, but, you know, there are other things, you know. Sitting on the front porch of your house that you built yourself with your own 2 hands, on a piece of furniture that you built with your own 2 hands, drinking a glass of cold water when it's 80 degrees outside, and just look across your land at your garden that's green and flourishing, and just sit there. Just sit there and feel the breeze on your face and just enjoy yourself. That's the kind of thing that I get a kick out of. You know, I would be more excited about that than a $60,000 3/4 ton pickup truck from, you know, the Chevy dealership. I don't really care about that. I'd rather drive a 1963 Chevy half-ton C10 or something like that with holes in the floor so big you can put your foot through. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. There's just this burning inside of me that tells me just that I need to be out here. where it's quiet and I don't have to worry about neighbors' dogs getting after my rabbits or anything like that. Here, if a dog comes and tries to eat one of my rabbits or chickens, I've got a lead solution for that problem. I don't even know if bullets are even made with lead anymore, so that was kind of a dumb comment, but I don't know. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me that we've gone so far down. What gives the state the right? Going back to the example of your vehicles, what gives the state the right to rent you your own vehicle? Why should you have to pay for licensing and registration and all that crap to drive a vehicle that you bought and paid for, that you're supposed to own, on roads that your money built? How does that make sense? That would be like you building your house with your own two hands, and then me coming in every year and saying, "Give me $100." It makes no sense. Why? What gives them the right? You know, people rode their horses everywhere. The government didn't come and say, "Oh, you have a horse. You know, give me some money." That's crap. And I know there's people on YouTube that are doing the free to travel and sovereign free man and all that stuff. That, you know, if you want to do that, that's great, and that might work one day if enough people do it, because there's solid evidence behind it, and there's solid laws to back it up and all that stuff. But go into a courtroom and try that crap, you know? It's not going to work. It's just not. They'll just say you're stupid and they'll lock you up. I mean, you know, drive your vehicle with no tags on it and claim that you're sovereign and you're a free person and you own your property and they have no right or authority to even stop you. See how far that gets you. It'll get you drug out of the car and tasered or something. You know, and I'm not saying that people should be cowards and just bow down. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, if you know, be smart about it. Use your brain. That crap is not going to work. You know, I'm not saying, you know, don't come up with something that does work, because I'd love that. You know, and it, you know, if federal agents came around and started trying to take everybody's guns away, you know, if somebody formed a front line and said the buck stops here, you know, federal agents have a place in this world, but it's not across this line right here. And if you cross this line right here, well, they're going to have some problems, you know. I'd probably join that line, because, you know, that's the way things have been done in the past. That, you know, that's how radical change has always happened. It's always been violent and explosive, and I don't really want it to be that way. You know, what I want is for the President of the United States of America to wake up one day and say to himself, this is not the way America is supposed to be. This is not it. You know, it's not. People should have the right to live. That's why they don't go around and execute homeless people. They don't go around and arrest them and haul them off to jail, every single one of them. Because everybody has a right to live, right to life. I mean, that, you know, you can say whatever about governments or what, that's a God-given right. You're born, you don't have a choice to be born or not to be born. So you have an inherent right that when you're born, you have certain liberties and freedoms. You should be able to just walk yourself from your mother and father's house into a stand of wood somewhere, sit down and just say, this piece of ground is where I live, and just start carving your existence out. Cut your trees down, build your house, whatever you're going to do. Just squat right there and say, this is where I live. That you're supposed to be able to do that. I understand with 8 billion people on the planet or whatever that we're getting kind of crowded, but that's also a product of modern society, you know. If the 4 million people in New York, or however many people are there, were to spread out into, you know, Montana, South Dakota, there's still plenty of open land in Arkansas, Tennessee, you know. Missouri, Iowa, Idaho. Basically anywhere from the state lines of California and Washington and Oregon and all that, all the way to Pennsylvania, and, you know, all that space in between is there's a lot of empty space, you know, and there's a lot of farmers I know that own a lot of land, but, you know, like my father-in-law here, he's got maybe 1,200 acres or something like that. I don't really know, but that's what I'm guessing. And but there's still plenty of room. There's still plenty of room for everyone. You know, it's not just for the few. It's for everyone. You know, just like a lot of people say, how can you own a tree? How can you own the dirt? You know, I don't really think you can. I think that you can put up some fences and say that you own it. And I think that if you're not too greedy, that's just fine. You know, if every family in America, I don't know this, but I'm guessing that as much land and open space as there is in America still, I guarantee there's a 120 acre parcel for every family in America. You know, if everyone had a 120 acre parcel, I guarantee that's enough for it, and that's plenty. That, you know, people have these huge farms and stuff like that to make a living. I don't. My uncle, like I said, had 160 acres. He ran 20 cows, 25 goats, 20 chickens, 2 pigs, and all of everything for those animals came off of that land. Everything. You know, he grew his own corn and ground it down through this grinder that ran with a belt, and, you know, pressed his own applesauce and cider and all that stuff, and had a garden that was probably 3/4 of an acre, and my aunt canned everything, and he had rabbits even and stuff like that, you know, and the cows, he had, I think, a 40 acre hayfield, and I think another 30 or 40 acres of hayfield in a different spot. And those 75 or 80 acres or whatever of hayfield was plenty to feed the cows in the wintertime. And then, of course, he had pasture land and stuff for them to roam in the summer. And they, you know, that was just fine. And he probably had, you know, 10 or 12 calves each year, and, you know, I don't know what they're going for now. Maybe $1,000 a calf or something like that. You know, 700. I don't know. But that was his yearly income. That was it, and he lived just fine off of that. Not only that, but I lived just fine off of that, and my aunt lived just fine off of that. So 3 people lived just fine off of the income of one little 160 acre farm. No outside income whatsoever. So there, you know, if you don't have huge expectations about, let's, you know, buy all kinds of video games and boats and 4-wheelers and all kinds of nonsense, you know, if you're not into all that, then you can live just fine. And I think there's something inside of everyone that can be happy in a life like that. Even if you were raised in town, you know, there's just something about coming out to the wilderness, kind of, and being one with nature, and if you're a religious person, you know, getting closer to God. I don't know, but this channel is going to be about our move from town and crappy life out here to more closer, at least, to what I just ache to be. I'm building a house right here behind the camera, and I've already shot other videos of the process of digging the footer and all that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to make this video to introduce the channel. So we're building the house here. I'm sawing all the lumber myself with a chainsaw mill out of all that timber back there. I'll probably use only white oak. And so basically all the lumber for the house will be basically free, you know, however much it costs for chainsaw, gas, and oil. And my labor, you know, that's about it. So once we get that done and actually move out here, like I said, the well's already done. The septic tank is built out of cinder blocks, and it's down in the ground. It's probably 10 foot deep by 10 foot long by 8 foot wide, so it's plenty big enough. What we plan on doing is we'll have a garden out here, hopefully big enough to grow enough vegetables for the family to last the entire winter, and then we'll eat out of the garden during the growing season. Over there somewhere I'll probably build a small barn. We plan on getting some goats, probably a couple of pigs. We already have chickens. We've had rabbits before. I don't really care for them, but it just kind of makes me feel bad caging up an animal into a small cage like that. I understand there's ways you can, you know, dig in the ground and put fencing in and all that stuff and kind of make it like a chicken coop that's fenced in, but I don't know. But yeah, we'll have chickens and goats and pigs and that sort of thing. I don't know about a milk cow. Probably just use the goat's milk. I don't know. I'd like to have a milk cow though. And I don't have any specialized tools. You know, I don't even have a truck. You know, I have a minivan that hauls my family around. You know, there's me, my wife, and we have 3 kids. My daughter just turned 10. My son is 5, and the youngest son, and he's just a year and 4 months or so. So he's just walking and starting to babble. But yeah, I don't have a pickup truck even. You know, I don't have a tractor. I don't have 4-wheelers. I don't have all that stuff. I have basically hand tools, and I am fortunate enough to have a large chainsaw, and I've got the chainsaw mill. But all that is in my other videos. You can check out the process of getting all that stuff. But you know, I don't really have any specialized things. You know, I'm not gonna use a nail gun on the house. I'm gonna hammer the nails. You know, just like a person would have to do. You know, we don't have a lot of money. You know, we live in an area that's very cheap to live in, so we're able to survive. You know, a family of 5 on, you know, I don't know, maybe between $700 to $900 a month, and that's what we live on. The house we live in now, my father-in-law owns it. Their business is they own a lot of rent houses, and that's kind of how they've made their living. But we live in one of their houses, so it really helps to not have to pay rent. I mean, that's, you know, if we had to pay $500 or $600 in rent, that would be detrimental. But we don't, so we're able to survive on, like I said, between maybe $700 to $900 a month, and that gets us all we need. You know, our kids aren't walking around in rags. You know, my wife is real thrifty, and she finds a lot of stuff, you know, used and from consignment stores and things like that, so all the kids get to wear the best name brands so the other kids don't put them down and stuff for not a lot of money. You know, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between my daughter and the daughter of somebody that made $300,000 a year. You know, you just wouldn't be able to tell. But you know, I don't know, but that's kind of the direction we're going. So, you know, if you guys would like to see the process of trying to carve out an existence, kind of, you know, I don't know if I'd call it a homestead. I kind of would, you know. basically taking a piece of ground that's never been worked and working it. I mean, that's the basic principle of a homestead, you know. Taking a piece of ground and just squatting down and saying, you know, here's where I live, and trying to keep yourself alive. That's basically about the extent of it. So if you like things like that, you know, I'll go through the process of everything. You know, when it comes time to, you know, I'm going to show laying the blocks. I've gotten the blocks maybe a third of the way done for the foundation. And I'll show the framing of the house and the plumbing and insulation and running the electric. I'm doing all that myself. I'm not a master craftsman by any means, but I am fairly intelligent and mechanically inclined. And there's not much that I can't do if I sit down and try. You know, I've never worked in construction, but I feel confident in my abilities to build this house strong and sturdy. Electrical and plumbing, once you sit down and look at it for just a few minutes, you understand the principle of it. And I've studied electrical and stuff like that through, you know, YouTube and things like that, and how to run service entries and all that kind of stuff. So I feel pretty good about that. Plumbing is just kind of like building blocks or Legos or whatever. They fit together a certain way to reach a certain destination, and the only thing you have to know is, you know, the 1/4 inch drop on the drain waste and all that kind of stuff, the venting, the air vent, air behind water and all that. But we'll go through all that, you know. We'll go through the insulation, the putting the siding up, which I'll cut here myself. The roof, you know, installing the wood stove, everything. I'll go through everything. When it comes time to building the barn, I'll go through that, and I'll cut the lumber myself. You know, I'll cut 6x6 timbers however long I want, and I'll build the barn myself out of lumber here. I'm not going to run out of timber. There's plenty of timber in the, you know, like I said, I basically can cut anywhere on, say, 1,000 acres. So I'm not going to run out of timber anytime soon. There's plenty of white oaks here. I really wish there was like some Douglas firs, or, you know, something like some pine or something that's, you know, 80 feet tall and straight as an arrow, but there's just not. All the white oaks around here, you'll get maybe 2 logs. If you get a real tall straight one, you might get 3, you know, 8-foot logs or something like that out of one, but pretty much always you'll just get 1 or 2 logs out of each white oak tree. Now the logs will be, you know, 2.5 foot across or something like that, you know, 28 inches or 30 inches or something like that. But quite a bit of lumber can be cut out of that. But that's kind of the deal. And then later on, once I get set up, I'll probably go and get an old Chevy pickup and do some motor rebuilding and tinkering and things like that. And I'll basically just be bringing you guys along every day. You know, I'll put out videos during the building process. It's winter time now. There's very few days where I can come out and lay blocks because of the nighttime temperatures falling below freezing and things like that. But I don't know. I'm thinking I might have to wait until the springtime to really finish the block work and start with the house. But even if that's the case, during the winter time, I can always just cut lumber, cut it, stack it, you know, sticker it, cover it, just let it sit until I'm ready. Green wood will warp a little bit and twist and check and stuff like that a little, you know. If you've got it stickered up right with the little strips of wood in between the stacks, you know, plenty of airflow, and you know, let it dry out slowly, then you you won't have a lot of that. And when you go and build, you can build a house out of green wood. You can. People might say you can't, but you can. As you know, you can cut a tree down, cut lumber out of it, and then, you know, frame with it the same day. You know, your walls, you know, a year from now, from heating with wood and drying out and stuff, your walls might, you know, move a little bit and things like that, but your house is not going to fall down, you know. If you care about surgical precision in your corners and you know, laser flatness on the walls and things like that, this probably ain't for you. But I mean, the whole inside of the house, I'm not going to use any drywall. I'm not going to use any sheetrock or sheet goods at all. I'm not going to use plywood or anything. Every bit of wood that goes into the house is going to be cut out of a tree by me. The walls are going to just be covered with 1x4s or 1x6s that I cut, you know, out of white oak, and I might sand them down a little and paint them or something, but the whole inside of the house is just going to be wood. That's it. The ceilings, everything. The floors, I'll probably do, you know, 1x6s for the floors, for the subfloor or whatever. And then once I get the walls and everything built up, I'll probably come back in and cut some black walnut or something real pretty like that, and then lay the hardwood floors through the whole house. But and then even the siding is just going to be 1x6s, you know, just overlap, just lap siding, I guess you'd call it. I don't know. I might Thompson water seal it, or I don't really know yet, but or paint it maybe, or something like that. But you know, from the inside out, this thing is just going to be made from wood, you know, my labor. I'm not going to go to the lumber yard and pay $3 or $4 for one single 2x4, or you know, $10 or $12 for a 2x8 that's 10 feet long. I can cut a 2x8 by 10 in maybe 4 minutes. You know, once I get the log cut down into a cant, I could cut from one end of the log to the other, a 10-foot log, in maybe 3 minutes. And that uses what? 30 cents worth of chainsaw gas, if that. So what would you rather pay? You know, $10 for a 2x8 from the lumber yard that's actually only 1.5 inches by 7 3/4 or whatever. Or would you rather pay, you know, 30 cents for a piece of white oak, you know, hardwood, not pine, hardwood, that's 2 full inches thick and 8 full inches wide, you know? I mean, I'd rather have that solid beam rather than a little piece of stick from the lumber yard. But maybe that's just me. But if you like that kind of thing, you know, come along. What can it hurt? You know, you're going to watch videos anyway. Why not do something that maybe might help your life a little bit, might make you a little healthier. You know, speaking of health, you know, I used to be a truck driver. You know, I used to make $1,100 or $1,200 a week. And for southern Missouri, trust me, that pretty much gives you license to go buy or do whatever you want to do. But the trade-off is I was only home 3 days a month. You know, that's not good. I want to be with my family. People are not even meant to work jobs, really. I mean, you know, you're supposed to be able to survive on your own merit. You know, you're supposed to be able to collect enough food for you and your family on your own without going to the grocery store. And it's not like, oh, we live in Chicago or whatever, we can't do that, we have to go to the grocery store. Don't live in Chicago. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I don't live in Chicago. I've been to Chicago. I've been just about to every major city in the United States. I've been to every state. I can tell you that. I've been to Canada. I've been to Mexico. I've been around. I see how people live. You know. People in Chicago like pizza. People in Alabama like boiled peanuts. I mean, isn't it, everybody thinks it's so different. It's not. People are just about the same across the U.S. It's just, I don't know. I just don't know what to tell people that live in big cities like that. They've got themselves dug in their mind around the American dream of, let's pay a $300,000 mortgage for 50 years or something like that. Let's go work in a cubicle until we want to blow our brains out or something. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But everybody's different, and that's the thing about this channel, about what I'm about. Everybody can live however they want to live. If you want to sleep upside down, hanging in your closet from your feet or whatever, that's up to you. I don't care. If you want to spend all the money you have on lottery tickets, that's up to you. It's your money. You work for it. Do what you want with it. I mean, when I say people are supposed to live this way or that way, I just mean naturally. Without any kind of intervention from governments or anything, if a person were to just be born in nature, without any influence from from anything or anyone other than nature, how would that person live? That person would be basically a caveman, but I mean, we don't have to be a caveman. I just want to live a little better, that's all. So, I'm hoping to help a couple of people, whether it be through knowledge of how to build something or an idea of maybe how to do something that they've never done before. I'm all about helping people, I'm never gonna have somebody come to me and say, how do I do this or that, and then just turn them away. It gets me in trouble with my wife all the time, but I can't seem to tell people no. If a neighbor came and asked me to help them move or something, even if I didn't like that person, I'd tell them yeah, and I'd go work 10 hours without eating a thing or whatever just to help those people out. But I don't know. I guess I have a different idea of what humanity could and should be, but to each their own, I guess. If you like this sort of thing, just watch the channel. We'll see you later.